Alrighty, so the first thing let's do is let's set up a div, okay? Give it an ID equal like TBL. Now we could just spell it out. It might be better, right? Table out, something like that. We could, the question would be what's better to use? And really, this is for us. It's not really like a human's going to read it, but we're going to create that table out, okay? So when we do that over in our main, what I like to do is I like to add, right? So constant, and I'll call it TBL here, output. It's going to be equal to document dot get element by ID. And I could have copied the one above it, right? And then you got to remember, I think it's table output is what I did. Table out is what I did. Makes me actually want to shorten this one, but if I shorten this one, it makes me want to do that one. So I'll just leave it the way it is for now. Okay, so that's step one. So now the question is, where do we start rendering this table in our code? Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a second and think about this. And in your README file, right, first question is where in code do we start to render the table? Okay, all I want you to do is give this some thought, right? So you don't have to code it yet, just in there. And we're using Markdown, okay? So I could give this a heading, right? And in here, you just put your answer, right? Okay, so do that. So pause, do it. Okay, so let's think about this. Let's think about when do we have the data available to us? Well, there's a couple places, but it's right here on the event listener, right? So remember, we're listening for a submit on the form. We're capturing the event, right? And then we're grabbing off of that event the miles, the input field, the gallons, the price. We're doing a validation. If it's valid, then we clear some areas. And then we set up that data object from calling, right? We call this, we call track. So at this point, once it comes back and we have that data object and we push it, this would be where we'd want to start rendering it. So I'm going to set up a new function call that's going to be render table. And it's a function. Okay. Now at this point, and after we do this, I think I'm going to end up modularizing this using modules would make more sense. But at this point, let's now set up our function. We'll call it render table. Okay. At this point, we don't need anything in. Now we're just going to set up constants, because here's the thing. Remember on my output, because the first thing we're going to do, just as a reminder, is we're going to do this right here. And in order to do that, right, we have to have a couple of things in place, right? So let's do this. Back to main, right? The first thing we're going to do in here is actually create that table, right? So let's do const tbl. It's going to be equal to document dot create element. So we're creating the element through code instead of doing it like we saw before, right? We're not hard coding, we're dynamically doing it. And in here, it's a table, okay? Cool. So that's the table. So now what do we want to do is we want to actually create those headings, okay? So you can, I'm going to copy and paste. I usually don't do this, but I just don't want you to have to see me type all this, and you can pause it and do this. We're going to set up headings, okay? It's going to be equal to, and in this case, we're going to do an array. And in that array, we'll have miles driven, gallons used, because these are our headings, price paid, trip, MPG. Oh, actually, it should be trip cost. I'm glad I saw that. Cost, right? And because they're in an array, what do you think we are going to do with them? Right? Well, let's think about that, right? Let's think about now that we could manually create every one of those TDs. But the thing about doing things dynamically is you lean into things like arrays. Okay, so this is a normal array. This is not an array of objects. Okay, So let's go ahead now. Oh, I'm not sure why it keeps going back. Okay. So now, sorry. Okay, so now what we're going to do is iterate over this array to create that heading. Okay, those heading those T was it THs, right? So what we want to do first is create the TR. All right, so what we're going to do is const set up the TR. Okay, equal to document dot create element. This is where I need to let the editor make this easier for me. Okay, and we're going to create a TR. Remember, that's your row. Okay, so now in our row, we're going to call headings dot for each. Remember, there's many ways you could write a for loop over an array. And I'm just going to go ahead and do function the long way. And now, oh, by the way, my bad. This should have been called, and this is actually a really good time to talk about this. Okay. So in here, I named this heading, but really it's headings, right? So it's multiple heading, multiple examples of headings. And so the nice thing about doing it that way, although you do have to read this carefully, is that then you can say headings, iterate over, okay? And for each one, first miles and gallons, we'll reference those as the heading, each one, okay? So let's just do this. Let's just for a moment, console.log, because you want to do this. You want to get used to seeing this output, okay? Okay, all right. So now the question would be, where would we see that console output, right? Where would we see it is because it's not until we enter, because it's on the event listener. So now we can see each of them, okay? Because, and if you want to stop it, I recommend stopping it and looking at the output, okay? Stop it right here, right? Iterate over that to see that output. Okay, I did notice on the miles driven, I didn't do a colon. So I'm going to do that. It's kind of nice. We could drop it or not, but right. Now we could kind of do these as like the colon is the items given. Yeah, we could do it either way. Let's see. We'll see what it looks like ultimately at the end. Okay, so now what do we want to do inside of here, right? What do we want to do inside of here is we want to say let th equal to document.create element. And in this case, we're doing a th. And now we're actually creating that element. Now that we have that heading, now we can say th dot text content, which we've seen several times, equals whatever is in that, whatever object, or sorry, whatever entry in the array that we're currently on. So we're updating that content, okay? And then we're saying, and this is how you build up the DOM, is you first create the table, then you create the TR, okay, and then you create the TH. And now on the TR, on the row, you say append child, which appends it into that structure, okay? So where this row is now, append in that TH. So that creates, and now what we'll do here is console log at the end, the TR. So you can see that, right? Because we're not going to see it in here yet. Again, okay. Oh, so I have it breaking here, which is okay. I'm just going to let it, actually, I'm going to break. And this is really good to know too, because you can actually stop, like right here where the breakpoint is at. If I want to move that breakpoint, I just hit play through. And so now it has gone over all of these. And now if I want to see it, I can see it here. I could just type, right, the TR. In this case, it shows me, there it is, right? There is the structure. But at this point, you've created elements that are just kind of hanging out in RAM or in the system memory, but you haven't attached them into the DOM. Okay, so now let's do that work because you've attached them, you've attached the THs into the TR. Okay, and the TR, right, at this point, let me make sure I didn't miss a step there. I might have. No. Okay. So now that I have the TR ready, so here's what I can do. I can say TBL dot append child, right? The TR. Check that out. Okay, so this is the part. Now, we'll let this run through so you can see it, right? Remember, this is what we hard coded. So now 200, see if it works. Again, we could just stop it right here. I could just say, no, I don't want to stop it. Just let it run. That's what this little icon here is, and that's what this icon here is. And if I let it run, TRTD. Oh yeah, what did I forget? That's right. I appended the TR into the TD, but I never appended the table into the output. Oh, I love that. I love it when I make a mistake like that, right? So where would we do that? At this point, where would we then append, right? Is to that table output dot, right? Append child TBL. Oh yeah. Oh, nice. Nice. Okay. So that's awesome, right? So now you can see, and to kind of make this a little easier, let's do this. Let's go into the HTML, right? Let's just for a minute comment, and I'm using command / to comment that out. So it just makes it a little cleaner, right? Cool, right? So there's our heading. So now, right, how do we do this? Okay, so this is where I want you to pause, right? And tell me, right? Tell me in your own words, how How well, you can see what I'm trying to get to. You can answer it. How do we create the TR with the row and what's going to be in the row? Let's look at it. Because this is how you learn, right? So my data, let's go actually enter something so you can see this. I want you to see. I have an entry in here. We know that. Let me come back over here. I lost my console, right? So if I look at mine data, I see that in that data, I have an object. And this object has all the values that I would need, right, to output. So how would I, and in this case, I have an object. How would I iterate over the object to get it to output into here? Okay, so pause. Actually, let's see how we doing on time. 13 minutes is a good stopping point, okay? Up. Okay, so two things you need to do here. One, give me your answer in your README file, and then I'll give you a commit message, and then we'll continue on. Okay.